Israel appears to be getting ready for a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has talked to his cabinet about military action. All this comes as new evidence is surfacing that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. Chris Mitchell has the story now from Jerusalem.
Israeli intelligence believes Iran is continuing its pursuit of nuclear weapons, and Israeli leaders are talking more about what they need to do about it. To some analysts, the rhetoric from Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, indicates Israel could be laying the foundation for a possible preemptive military strike against Iran's nuclear program. For example, in comments early this week, Netanyahu warned Iran posed a grave threat to the world, the Middle East, and Israel. He also said, "A security philosophy cannot rely on defense alone. It must also include offensive capabilities, which is the very foundation of deterrence. Our policy is guided by two main principles. The first is, if someone comes to kill you, rise up and kill him first. And the second is, if anyone harms us, his blood is on his own hands." The Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported Netanyahu and Defense Minister Ehud Barak are trying to convince a majority of the cabinet to support military action against Iran. In addition, Israel's foreign ministry has instructed its ambassadors to tell other ambassadors and leaders the window of opportunity for imposing effective sanctions on Iran is closing. The campaign is designed to convince the U.S., European nations, and other Western countries to impose their own sanctions against Iran. However, the U.S. has warned Israel about any independent military action. In the meantime, the International Atomic Energy Agency will release a report next week on Iran's nuclear program. The report is expected to show Iran is trying to build a nuclear bomb. One other item drew the attention of many observers. Israeli Air Force planes recently conducted a training exercise that simulated attacks against the Mediterranean island of Sardinia. The exercise lasted several days. Sardinia is approximately the same distance from Israel as parts of Iran.
And CBN News senior editor John Waggy joins us now for more on this situation between Iran and Israel. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
President Obama talked with French President Sarkozy today about Iran. Where does the U.S. stand on this issue?
Well, the U.S. has been conflicted for a number of years. They've first said over and over again that Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. That's an untenable position. So sanction after sanction, UN resolution after UN resolution, we're now to the point where it seems that this IAEA report that comes out next week is going to be very ominous in terms of how far Iran has come in the nuclear front. And so we see not only the U.S. and France, but the U.S. and the United Kingdom and Israel all sending emissaries to the different military emissaries to the different countries. They're talking about something. And it may be to the point now where they're realizing that Israel is going to do something about this if the international community can't act with more forcefulness to deal with Iran.
Now, if the U.S. or Israel, if they plan to attack, military strategists, some of them say it has to happen soon. Why is that?
Well, primarily it's a strategic military problem of cloud cover over the nuclear sites in Iran. When the rainy and snowy season comes in Iran, as it's going to do in just a matter of a very few weeks, then it's militarily much more difficult to pull something like that off against a number of targets in Iran. So they're running against a window here, running against a clock in trying to deal with this militarily, unless they want to wait a whole other year, and that brings other problems. We've got an American election, and who knows, by then Iran may have enough to build some bombs.
Now, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been warning people for years, warning the world international community for years about Iran's nuclear threat. Why do you think so little has been done?
Well, that is the central question, and the thing is that Iran has been essentially at war with the United States since 1979, and we have dealt with Iraq in that time frame. We have dealt with Libya. We've dealt to a certain extent with Yemen. We've dealt with all these other countries, but we haven't dealt with Iran, which is the primary fomenter of terrorism in the world and is the country that wants to go nuclear, and is the country that where the leaders believe that the Mahdi, the 12th Imam, is coming and will hasten in the Messianic Muslim golden age. And so, and they need to create chaos to do it. So we've seen the signs there. Netanyahu's been warning for the better part of a decade that you can't let Iran go nuclear, and yet that seems to be what the world is on the verge of doing.
All right. Senior Editor John Wogge, thanks for staying on top of this for us.
Thanks, Mark.